Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Connection and Conversations. So normally I do a little bit of a script at the beginning of each interview, but today I'm just going to scrap that and we're just going to go straight to the interview. So I'm interviewing this amazing lady who's Gabrielle Collins. Hey, Gabrielle.
Thank you, Sinead. How are you?
I'm great. And Gabrielle is a relationship coach, and she specializes in the area of domestic abuse, sexual abuse, anxiety and depression, and most importantly, self-development. So Gabrielle, in my work, I work with people on a more of a physical level, and obviously the mental emotional comes into that. But you very much start with the mental emotional. So can you tell people exactly what you do?
Well, like you said, Sinead, I specialise in the sexual abuse and domestic violence area because of my own personal experiences that led me to do this. And so when your mental and emotional is not okay, your physical is not going to be okay. So that's where I start on the mental and the emotional, because how we're reacting, how we're behaving, you know, all that affects our physical. And when you get that right, the physical improves. So I've experienced that myself. And from experience, it's a very tender areas that I work with. So there's a lot of trust that's needed to be built up first, you know, and giving yourself permission. You might want the help and you know you need it, but it's giving yourself the permission to go forward and take the help, you know. So it's quite delicate, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, the relationship or the connection that you have with people is so much based on trust. And the people that come to see you, their trust has been so, I suppose, damaged in inverted commas, but damaged in a way that's very fixable. So how is there a right time? Do people come to you, you know, because they may have been living in this situation for years and then they just suddenly come to you? Or what happens that actually gets people in contact with you and through your door?
Usually it's when we become sick to death of ourselves or sick to death of our situation and knowing that there has to be something better, you know. And a lot of people have a fear of dying, and that's when they come, because they're literally dying on the inside, but it manifests itself on dying on the outside. So they know inside, the same as I did, that there was more in me. And the fear of change has to be greater than the fear of staying the same. And that's what happens. You just cannot stick it any longer. But we generally say, I can't stick myself, or I can't stick it, but we don't know what the it actually is, because the fear would block us, you know.
And do people who come to see you, because I know certainly as a practice nurse, people will come to see me for, you know, for an injection, or, you know, women coming for a smear test or something like that. And then suddenly this conversation would open.
Yeah.
And people would just, you know, life story. And I often felt that I wasn't the right person. And always I would refer these women on, you know, for help. But is that often how it happens? Or do people go and see doctors or other healthcare providers lots of, you know, for physical symptoms first and then?
Yeah, it generally is, Sinead. And you see, the thing is, when you have been traumatized in any shape or form, because your trust is broken, and sometimes it's completely broken, because the people that were meant to be able to trust, it doesn't happen, it hasn't happened, or they broke it to the extent that you don't even trust yourself anymore. And when you're living disassociated like that, that's a huge job, you know. It's all possible to fix. Like, I'm here, you know, I'm here, and it is possible to fix. But the willingness for you wanting to be better has to be bigger, you know, like I said, than the fear of staying the same.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, generally, if I went to you, say, and you were a nurse and you were taking my blood or something, and I might spill my guts out to you, you know, because I know, or I've been led to believe, that the medical profession are safe people. So I'll start to speak, and the chances of me seeing you again are very slim. So I can say what I need to say and then leave. because
Yeah.
the shame and guilt
Mm.
of me speaking up and saying this is my story is huge,
Mm.
because we feel that we let our people down, our families, you know.
Mhm.
Then this goes off in our head saying, what are you doing saying that? You're an idiot. You know, this is all your fault. This wouldn't have happened if you didn't, or you didn't say. And because we're told it's our fault.
Right.
So we carry it all in ourselves with like a big, big secret.
Mm. Mm.
So we try, like for me, one of the things I did was, if anybody said to me, how are you? I told them.
Right.
And I was so embarrassed. I remember one day I had my kids with me and somebody said to me, how are you? And I actually heard myself telling them how I was. And I went, I have to stop this. Because
Wow.
the biggest need that we have is to be seen, to be heard, and to know that what we say matters. But
Yeah.
we put that out to other people to see us and to hear us, because we don't want to see and hear ourselves, because what we have to say is yucky and icky and we don't like it, you know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's the only place to start, is this talk with the ick, you know, talk about what it is that's making you sick, literally, you know.
And for people then, we say if you have a friend, or again, if there are nurses watching, if that situation happens, because it's happened on lots, not lots of occasions, but certainly more than 5 or 6 occasions.
Yeah.
And then, and it was, for me, it was interesting, you know, because all I can do is listen. I can give referrals if people want them, but mostly people, you know, or through the doctor, obviously, but mostly people didn't want referrals, or people would tell me their life story, and then I'll walk down the street and they'll, which is perfectly fine, and they'll completely ignore me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and they're still in their situation. And I used to feel, how can I help someone like that? What can you know, what would you tell people to just listen every time? Or if you're a friend of someone and they
Yeah.
spill their guts out
Listen.
to you?
Listen all
Mm.
the time. Listen. But
Mm.
there comes a fine line then, that you see, we can become addicted to our story. So you can
Yeah.
see me and I just want to keep telling you my story, and that's no
Mm.
good, because I'm keeping a wound open. So I
Right.
need where it can be healed, you know.
Mm.
But you can also say, you know, if you ever feel that you want to go and get help, I can certainly help you. You know, I
Yeah.
can refer you on,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But sometimes you see what happens is, so if I go into you, say for my blood test, and I
Mm-hmm.
say my sport out, whatever it is, that
Mm-hmm.
will keep me going. That can keep me going for months, that I got that little bit out. Because then it's nearly like you start to skip on the inside, and it's like, oh, you feel your energy shift, but you
Yeah.
can't identify it as your energy has shifted.
Okay.
But you just know you didn't die when you spoke. The other person didn't go, oh, shock, horror, you know,
Mm-hmm.
all that. So we're looking for the reaction, because we feel so awful. We think that our story is the worst story in the world. But the story that I have, that you have, that everyone has, is the worst story for us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we need to not minimize our story.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's another very important thing. Or, you know, like, you know, sometimes if you go into groups, you'll hear somebody else's story that's worse than yours, and you say, oh, I shouldn't be here. Sure, like,
Yes.
I'm not too bad. You know, I'm
Yeah.
okay. I'm grand. I'm grand.
Yeah.
I just have some days that I'm not okay, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah.
like if it's domestic violence, he's not that bad, or she's not that bad, depending on the relationship you're in, you know. So we
Yes.
minimize it, because
Yeah.
the pain is so big that we're
Right.
overwhelmed, you know. And like, one of the things that happened to me was I kept fainting. I was so
Wow.
overwhelmed all the time, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all the time, because the stress of keeping it in is what
Yeah.
keeps us sick, literally, you know.
Do people, or is it your experience? And I mean, everybody's experience is different, that come to you, um, separate themselves from their body? So you know, there's
Mm.
Gabrielle, the person, and the body, and then there's Gabrielle who knows what's happening is not right, but
Yeah.
you almost can box that away so that you can survive and get through your
And
day.
that's what you have to do, and that's called disassociation. So you live disassociated from your body,
Mm-hmm.
because we can't take any more pain physically. But
Mm-hmm.
behind the physical pain is the emotional pain, and you
Mm-hmm.
just cannot take another minute of it. So the only way that you can live is to live disassociated. So for me, when I was living disassociated, I literally became another person. You know, I became a French girl who was really calm and serene, and she lived in this lovely place in France, and everything I wasn't, long dark hair, lovely, and, you know, peaceful. She was nearly like a princess, you know. But I felt shitty about me in reality, but I couldn't admit that, you know. And I always felt different, but I couldn't explain to you what the difference was. I just knew my fear was greater, you know, my reaction like this, I was startled an awful lot. And like, you just know your reactions are a little bit over the top. And some people see, I didn't even remember my abuse until I had my first baby.
Wow.
You know, and I was hanging the nappies on the line one day, and I got this flashback, and I thought, that's strange. Do you know, but my whole experience of giving birth was massive trauma, because I couldn't let go. I was so used to holding on, like my muscles wouldn't let go to let the baby out, all that. Like I lost the power of my leg for 18 months, loads of things like that. The physical symptoms will really manifest themselves, you know. It really will. It's tricky.
And it's interesting. Well, I've heard you talk about the French girl before, and initially I kind of thought you were being funny, you know. I thought, you know, that we take on this persona, because I remember as a teenager doing this course, and I changed my name because it was, you know, I thought it would be cool. Anyway, it was very brief, I have to say, and it was completely different, obviously. But so was this when you were kind of being social and out and about with people, or how did you use that?
I don't know. This is what we do. You see, we tell ourselves stories to keep ourselves. So in order for me to live in the fear, I needed to be somebody else, you know. And like, I just created her. And she was an opera singer, which was very, very the opposite to me, because I didn't have a voice. I didn't speak. Nobody knew anything had happened to me. Nobody knew, you know. And so she was an opera singer living in France, and that's how I lived my life. Like, I signed my copies in school by her name. Yasmin LeBlanc was her name, and nobody questioned it. Nobody questioned it. You know, it was funny. It was like funny. And I was mad. That was another thing. She's mad. She calls herself Yasmin, you know. But the funny thing I always remember was, like, I didn't understand the French language, but I called myself Yasmin LeBlanc, and it wasn't until years later, blanc is white. And I felt so dirty and black and on the inside. And there I was creating something that was light. So our spirit speaks to us when we want to listen. You know, like, your spirit will speak. But at first you're scared. It's very scary.
And so you have a newborn baby, and you have this flashback. Where do you go after that? Do you kind of question it, or do you know, did you immediately know, oh my God, this is what happened to me, this was my experience?
No, I didn't know. I didn't know what it was about, but I could see the images very clearly. I could see what was happening in it, and I thought it was very strange to have that in my head. So I was married to an alcoholic at the time, and so I was busy with that as well. And it took me then a couple of years, because then once one started, something else. And what happened to me was, I had this baby, and all of a sudden I was overwhelmed. I felt I couldn't take care of her, because I needed someone to take care of me. That's what happened for me. So I got the postnatal after that, and because I couldn't walk, I felt very trapped, you know. So that's how it started to manifest. Little things, more memories started to come back, and it was a slow thing. Now, I held on to that for years before I went and got help, because I was too scared. I was too ashamed, you know, to say this is what happened to me. But I was drawn to these stories. After I had that flashback, I started being drawn to the stories, you know, highlights in newspapers, things like that, you know. But my feeling different really escalated you know, and I got a lot of anxiety around that.
And could you talk to anybody about that at that time? And what kind of a reception did you get? Was it a positive experience or a negative experience or both?
I didn't tell anybody, no. I went to the GP eventually for the depression. And then after, I'd say, a year or so, I said to him about these images that I had, you know,
Right.
because it was now coming out in my body as well, you know. It was really
course.
starting to come out in my body. Like the anxiety was like through the roof.
Yeah.
I started this behavior that I wouldn't go out unless it was dark. So I would go out once a week on a Thursday afternoon and I'd be in a panic, flying around. I needed to get to the bank. I needed to get to the supermarket. I needed to do this, and this. And I was so distracted that I left the baby in Dunn's. I went home without her. And I didn't even remember that I had a baby. I was so busy trying to get home, because I only felt safe when I was in the house and the door was closed. Because I felt there was like this, everybody knew. And it was when I was unpacking the shopping and I took out my tins of SMA, I realised, holy moly, I left the baby downtown. So I had to literally hop my way back down to get her. In them days, you could leave a baby and it was okay, you know.
And when that happened, when you had that experience, when you went down to get your baby, did you then kind of beat yourself up in inverted commas
Oh,
for
absolutely.
doing that?
Yeah.
But did you just judge
All
yourself
the
all the
time. How
time?
could you forget? I told myself I was a bad mother. How I was afraid she was going to be taken off me. I was afraid the security guard that would have taken her and brought her to the guards, because I had a huge fear of the law, people in authority. And that's because I felt so insignificant in myself. Everybody was above me, you know, and if anybody said anything, I believed them, because I believed that what I had to say really didn't matter and nobody was going to listen to me.
Right.
So therefore, I just accepted an awful lot of stuff that I shouldn't have.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, I shouldn't have, but I
If
did.
somebody who's watching has had a similar experience, or what you're saying is resonating with them, what would you say to them now?
Don't suffer in silence anymore. You don't need to. The biggest gift that you will give to yourself, even that it's Christmas, is give yourself the gift of a voice. You know, even if it's a text message, if it's an email, if you can't voice it, give yourself a gift this Christmas of yourself and just reaching out. Just reach out, because we don't need to suffer alone. We tell ourselves that we do because of the shame, the guilt, the embarrassment, all that goes with it.
Yeah.
And we just think we're not worth it, you know, or I'm too old is another one. I'm too old, Charlotte. Like, it's too late for me. It's never, ever too late. It's never, you know, it's never too late.
Yeah, I remember doing acupuncture on a lady one day, and she was in her 70s, and the trauma, you know, there's, and I mean, like, and again, my skills are, you know, listening, but I always refer people like this lovely lady, refer to her on, because she needed help. So it really is never too late.
It's never, ever, ever too late. It's never too late, because if you even live a couple of days in your life with the freedom, it will be worth it, you know, and your story will help somebody else, you know, but first of all, it has to help you, you know, and it will help you. But is it easy? No. But is it worthwhile? 100%. And I always say, if somebody thought that it was okay to treat you like that, it's okay to say it. Because the biggest thing around it is the secrecy. And every time we keep it quiet, we are enabling them to do it again. And maybe it won't be on us, it could be on somebody else. And sometimes that will spur us on, because we don't want someone else to suffer what we've suffered. Especially like when there's in a family, if there's a couple of siblings being abused, and you know that your other sister or your other brother, whatever it is happening to them, that will make you stand up, because you know what the pain is like and you want to protect them. But we don't want to protect ourselves because of the fear, you know, and we're not worth it. We just don't have, like, I would never have said I had low self-worth. I had no self-worth. I didn't have any. I didn't think that I was worth anything. you know.
I think that that's really difficult for people to understand, you know, for people looking in. And I think that people, often people, you know, just having conversations, that people will say, oh, nowadays that doesn't happen. That kind of thing
Oh,
doesn't go on. You know,
big.
because people talk more now, and it just simply doesn't happen. And I think, and then to understand why somebody can't speak about it. And I just love how you're speaking about this, because we judge ourselves all the time. And you don't need to judge yourself about this. You know, this is something that happened to you, nothing to do with you. You didn't cause this. You
Yeah,
shouldn't be, you
yeah. And you
shouldn't be
see,
at the
one
receiving
of the
end of
biggest
something.
things as well, Sinead, is that we fear that people will judge us. What
Yeah.
will they say?
Mm,
Well, who are they?
mm,
Who are
mm,
they? We have all these people in our heads that we're afraid of upsetting. You know, and one of the big things is that we can be afraid of, if it was your father, say, one of the big things for me was I didn't want to upset my mother. So I didn't,
yeah.
when I learned about it, I didn't tell her for a lot of years, you know.
Mm,
But the
mm,
biggest gift I can give my mother is to be me. So I can't be me when I am hiding all this stuff, because I'll never be me, the me that I was born to be,
yeah.
you know. So it's tricky, you know, and the trust is
Absolutely.
huge, you know.
Yeah.
And some people go and tell somebody that they think will help and they don't.
Mm,
So who you pick is vital.
yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
it's very, very important who you tell, you
Yeah.
know, really
Yeah.
important.
I remember a girl who told her family that she was being abused by her father, and nobody believed her, because
Yeah,
she was the only one theoretically that was being abused. But as it
yeah,
turned out, that wasn't the
yeah.
case.
I remember when I told my family, I rang
Mm,
every single one of them and I said, do you believe me? Do you
mm,
believe me? And do you believe me? And do you believe me? Because it was so big,
yeah.
you know, it was so big. Do
Yeah.
you
And it's all,
believe me?
and it's then you're almost putting yourself out there for rejection again.
Yeah, yeah.
If you know, if people don't say, I believe you.
Yeah, it's so important. It's
Mm,
so important. And as well as that too, you can have one person in a family that was abused, and then they
mm,
might say it to another sibling, and they'll say, she's mad.
mm,
I wouldn't believe a word she's saying, because like,
mm,
oh, daddy was lovely, you know. Or and women abuse girls as well. Like, our mommy wouldn't do that, or an auntie or an uncle or whoever it is, because
yeah.
they're lovely people.
Yeah.
Why is she saying that? Or why is he saying that? Because it happens to boys as well. You know,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
boys and men are people too,
Of
and they
course.
need help. They need the help. Their pain is the same, but because the boys are made to be strong and big boys don't cry, it's harder for them to come forward. You know, that's just the society we live in. Because when
Absolutely.
you think of abuse, you automatically think of a man abusing a woman or a
Mm,
girl, but it
yeah.
works lots of ways. It's not
Yeah.
just that, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Can you just tell us now, because we're kind of coming up on time, people where they can find you, where else they could go for help, or who should they approach first? Or you're the expert. You
Well,
passing it over. But
you
if so,
can
it's
you get
important
me
if
on
somebody's
Facebook,
watching this.
Turning Point Drogheda, or Turning Point Coaching and Counselling. You'll get me there. You can private message me. You can check out my website, and you can send me a message there as well.
Yeah.
My phone number, all my details are up there. There's the Rape Crisis Northeast, if this is going out in loud, and then there's the Rape Crisis in
Going out
general.
everywhere. And there's rape crisis
Yeah,
centres, I think, in every county.
in every county, yeah. So there's that. There's the Samaritans. You
Mhm.
know, you can go to your GP, you can go to a nurse, go to somebody that you know will be there. You know, if you feel that you can't go to a family member, or go to somebody like a friend, if you have a friend that you can really trust, you know, and
Yes.
you're afraid to take the next step, that friend then can contact us on your
Hmm.
behalf. And then you will get better at contact coming yourself, you know. So there's lots of ways. It's just give yourself the voice. It's so important, because you're helping future generations as well, you know, because the more of us that speak out, the better. And we
Absolutely.
stop enabling it to be happening, you know. Because when we don't speak out, we're enabling them to do it again and again. And it may not be with us, it may be with somebody else. So speak up and speak out and give yourself the voice, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Gabrielle, you do lots of videos, or is it a couple of days a week you do videos on Instagram and videos on Facebook?
Facebook, yeah.
People
So
can
that's every
follow
Wednesday. Yeah,
to get
every
to know
Wednesday
you.
and Sunday.
Sorry,
Yeah,
every Wednesday and Sunday. Yeah,
that's
and
yeah.
we've really only touched the surface today.
No, yeah.
There's so much more to talk about. So I would love if you will come back and talk about this
Love
more.
to.
Is
Yeah,
that a possibility?
possibility, definitely.
Because we need to talk about, there was a new law recently,
Mm,
you were speaking about one of your videos on coercive control,
yeah,
and also domestic abuse just on its own. And I don't mean that as a throwaway phrase by any means, but just to talk about those two separate issues, because Christmas, I don't know what it is about Christmas, but things seem to heighten, or stress
yeah.
heightens and
You see,
anxiety
we come
heightens.
from this. I say we come from this Disneyland where Christmas should be, and
Mm,
everybody lives happily ever after. Look at all the movies.
yeah, yeah,
Look at all the Disney films that's out there that's telling girls, and the prince came and everyone lives. The only one that doesn't is Shrek. It shows the life after it, you know.
yes,
So
yeah.
we have this in our heads that it should be this, you know. But most people aren't having a wonderful time, even though you're telling yourself that they are. Most people aren't. Everybody has something going on, but it's we put on our mask and what we want to show on the outside.
Absolutely.
And just because everybody is going and visiting and smiling and happy, you don't know what's going on inside their door.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You
I
just
mean,
don't
even
know.
in a really healthy relationship, you're shouting at each other. Well, maybe not
Yeah,
shouting, but
yeah.
it's just
It's
normal,
the expectations.
perfectly
And you see,
normal.
we have huge expectations around Christmas.
Yeah.
Huge,
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
and they're not
Absolutely.
real. They're not real.
Absolutely. We're going to say goodbye to people on Facebook.
Okay,
Thank you
thank you
so
for
much
having
for
me.
watching. And Gabrielle will be back. I promise you that. And you know where to find, I don't know why I'm looking at the phone. You know where to find Gabrielle.
Yeah. Or they
Now,
can
and obviously,
contact you as well if they need me.
yeah, absolutely. Please contact me and I can put you in touch with Gabrielle, pass a message on, anything at all. If I can be of any help in any way, I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Alrighty. So I'm just going to take us off Facebook. Thank you. Okay, we're gone from Facebook. Thanks a million, Gabrielle. I'm going to stop the recording now.
Okay.
Okay. Stop.